Once you feel the Centurion CFT PRO cable motion, everything else pales by comparison. It sets a new standard for cable smoothness. The motion is on a completely different level, and that's not by accident. It comes from a combination of precision pulleys, multiple cable ratio options, and a specially designed polyurethane-covered multi-strand cable built specifically for this machine. But don't take our word for it. Here's Tyler from Solid Home Gym Reviews breaking it down.
I'm going to go ahead and put this bad boy into storage because, my friends, we have got to talk about this cable. Now, you might notice there is just tons of options here for cables. And I'll tell you another thing there's tons of options for is ratios. Now, if you're not familiar with cable ratios, stick around. I'll explain it to you. But right now, what I really want to tell you about is just how incredibly smooth this cable is. This, my friends, is just probably... No, I'm going to just go ahead and say definitely the smoothest cable that I have ever had on my channel. And if you've been following the channel a while, you know we've had a lot of cables on this channel. This cable is tight, smooth, zero travel. Every time I do an exercise, I feel like the weight is just right on the other side of the pulley. And that is what you want in your cable. You don't need any of the gimmicks to make your cable smooth, because here I have nylon pulleys. My cables, they're not the thickest thing in the world. And I have 8 separate cable attachment points that all operate just absolutely smooth as butter and will for probably a very long time, no matter what weight you're messing with. I also have a very smooth cable coaster on both sides. On my outside cables, I have 15 points of adjustments on both sides. And I feel like right now is a good time to stop here and explain to you these cable ratios. This machine comes with 3 separate cable ratios that are interchangeable. So what is a cable ratio, you might ask? A cable ratio is basically the amount of weight you're gonna feel when you put on your cable. And I know what you're thinking, well, I selected 20 pounds. Why wouldn't I just feel 20 pounds? Well, all machines aren't created equally. This machine can basically do all of the common cable ratios. One of them is your 1-to-1 ratio, which basically is your true ratio. 1-to-1 ratio means you're going to feel 100% of the weight that you select to exercise with. This machine also has a 2-to-1 ratio. 2-to-1 ratio means you're going to feel about half the weight that you select to exercise with. So if I select 20 pounds on my weight stack, if I'm at a 2-to-1 ratio, I only feel about 10 pounds. And then this machine also has a 4-to-1 ratio. I'm sure you can figure this one out for yourself, but 4-to-1 ratio means you're going to feel about 25% of the weight that you put on your cable. Meaning if you select 20 pounds, you're only going to feel about 5 pounds. Now, there's lots of different benefits and downsides to this, but that is why this machine comes with pretty much all of them. So everything works for you. Let me explain a little bit of that right now. And what would be a great place to start is a cable we already talked about, your outside cables here, which are commonly used for cable crossovers and things like that. So you might notice 2 cables poking out of here. I am operating at a 4-to-1 ratio. That means right now I have 20 pounds selected and I'm feeling only 5 pounds. And not only that, now my cable stretches, well, pretty much across my entire gym. So I can do any exercise possible that I want with this guy. That's how far I'm stretching here. However, when I hook these 2 bad boys together, they create a 2-to-1 ratio, which is probably the best ratio for things like cable crossovers. Now, with a 2-to-1 ratio, I have 20 pounds selected and I'm now feeling 10 pounds. And with that, my cable, although it stretches pretty far, doesn't quite stretch as far as my 4-to-1 ratio. Now let's take a look at some other cables on this machine. As you may have already noticed, I have a pull-down cable, which is both of these guys right here. Both these guys and my cable down here at the bottom, which I'm just going to call my low cable or my row cable because that's what you're going to be using it for mainly. They all operate individually on a 2-to-1 ratio. But when you combine them together, they form a 1-to-1 ratio. I am feeling the full amount of the weight that I have selected. And this is about how far I can pull my 1-to-1 ratio. And same thing here down bottom with my low cable, which has a little connector piece in it. You can interchange it for the top and the bottom. But you might be saying, why is this impressive? Why is this important? Well, because we got a 200-pound weight stack here. 200 pounds. And if you're the big beefer, you want to take advantage of every single pound and make it count. These ratios are important so that you don't max out your stack. And these ratios are important because those lighter weights need to feel a little smoother on those 2-to-1, 4-to-1 ratios when you're doing things like cable crossovers. And now your adjustments can be much more incremental if you want them to be. But you also don't want those lightweight ratios when you're doing things like lat pull downs where you want 100% of that weight, because if you're the big beefer, you might max out that weight stack at 200 pounds with only a 2-to-1 ratio on your lat pull down, because that means you can only get 100 pounds total of your weight stack. So everything on this machine just lets you take advantage of that plate stack. And not only that, I just have multiple options to do everything on this machine. I have multiple spots to do whatever I feel like works the best on. This is an absolutely a machine that I'm going to recommend. I'm going to give a thumbs up to. To be honest with you, this one's getting 2 thumbs up. Man, I just like this thing.
That's the difference. This isn't just another cable machine, it's a completely different level of performance. Once you feel it, you'll understand exactly what sets it apart. Big thanks to Tyler from Solid Home Gym Reviews for the breakdown. If you're serious about upgrading your setup, visit legionfitnessequipment.com or call 866-987-8963 to speak with a Legion representative and get yours dialed in today.